Welcome, everyone. So glad that you could join us today. I'm Jerry Deniston. I'm the director of the Small Business Development Center at Yavapai College. And we are here back for our second session with Ben and Joel of Scout Collective Digital to share some tips and tools on social media actions that you can take to help increase your holiday shopping and sales experience. Briefly, I just want to recognize that we have some of our partners within the SBDC network who are also on here with us. We have Jamie Kerr from the Arizona Commerce Authority, and we have Socorro and possibly Rich Chanik from Northland Pioneer, and Katie Body, who's the director of Central Arizona SBDC. So all our SBDC centers are collaborating to host some of these webinars. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Ben and Joel so you can take it away and share some of your insights with us. Thank you.
Excellent. You can all hear me, I'm assuming, and hopefully we'll be able to see my presentation. So start at the beginning. It was a good place to start. So thanks again, everybody. This is the second in the webinar series on social media in a small community. So if you haven't, you don't have to have seen the first one. Certainly, I think you can follow right along. But there's a lot of context that's good for kind of a foundational approach to why and what and how you should be thinking about social media in your context in a small community. So check that out. There's the recordings have been posted online, and I'm sure we'll send that out afterwards. The other thing to note is we will send out a copy of this presentation, and this is being recorded, so that if you're furiously taking notes or you feel like, hey, I missed something, I want to go back and look at it. You'll also notice throughout the presentation I have some links and kind of reference material. We will, with the presentation, you'll be able to click on those links and check out that reference material kind of at your leisure, right? So don't feel like you have to kind of get everything right this second. We will, you'll have the details to kind of refer back to. So a little bit about Joel and I. Again, we introduced ourselves more formally in the last webinar, but we run Scout Collective. We're based in Shoalo, Arizona, at least half the year. This year, more like the whole year. With coronavirus, but our focus is really on small business kind of basics around digital marketing, helping small businesses. And I have a few slides on this, but helping small businesses set up the right digital foundation. I'm just really convinced, particularly with coronavirus, even accelerating our focus on digital, right? People are ordering online, finding places more online. They're not just doing this sort of old, word of mouth or whatever. The digital is just super important for small businesses, and I think even more important for small communities, which tend to have been kind of overlooked by the digital revolution. So while we've had this massive digital revolution in our society over the last 20, 30 years, a lot of small businesses are still kind of operating like they were 20 years ago, right? With paper and kind of business cards and things like that. I have a business card, nothing wrong with that, but they're not really tackling the digital challenge. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Joel's going to do a section in this. A lot of this webinar will be me, for better or for worse, but Joel will do a section later, hands-on demo of a tool called Canva, which we think is really cool as a free tool that you guys can take advantage of. So Joel will be coming up soon, but I will kind of kick it off. So I wanted to start with sort of our principles about how we approach working with clients or even education like a webinar, right? Is we really want to remove any mystery, lessen intimidation, and give you a place to start. And what I mean by that is it's quite common that when we start talking about digital marketing and you're a small business owner, you end up talking to someone who might be using terms that you don't understand, that are kind of confusing. Maybe they're trying to impress you, and it's sort of mysterious, like, well, it's about Google, or it's about clicks, or it's about ads, or whatever. And we want to just make it very, very basic, so that we can, you don't feel intimidated, and that you feel like you have a place to start. And I think a pro tip is that if you are working with someone in the digital marketing space and they can explain what they're doing in very simple terms that you understand, and I think even more importantly, if they don't understand your business, then I would find somebody else, right? I think there's a lot of people who unfortunately prey on small businesses by kind of confusing them, versus actually working to understand the business and then explaining how digital marketing fits into that context. another kind of grounding principle for us is digital marketing for Scout Collective, and I hope for you guys is really about authentic human connections. So it's not about Google algorithms, Facebook algorithms, kind of search engine optimization first. All those things, are important for sure, but it's really about presenting a connection or creating a way to connect with someone, whether it's on social media, your website, whatever, that's authentic. It's a way about presenting your business and your unique story and the passion that you have that got you into business in the first place. And it's putting it out there so that you can connect with either your customers or prospects or whatever. So I think have to keep that in mind and not lose the fact that marketing really is about human connection and telling stories, right? Just as a refresher on the webinar series, this is planned to be a 3-part series. The first one was a lot of foundational concepts. What platform should you choose? We think Instagram first, Facebook second. How do you kind of automate? What are the free tools you can use to schedule and automate your posts on social media? What are some ideas about how you set goals, how you be consistent, things like that. So again, if you haven't reviewed that, go back and check that out. This webinar is going to focus more on design and content, hashtags. Instagram stories and videos is actually going to be a separate hands-on that we'll send out after the fact, just like we did in webinar 1, where we sent out a hands-on with Facebook Creator. We felt like that was easier to do than try to do it live, because it's hard to kind of record your screen on a live webinar with Instagram stories. And then we'll talk about holiday readiness as well. Just as a reminder of the key takeaways of that foundational webinar 1, this is sort of kind of what we think you should have taken away from that. Just a reminder, it's been, for some of you, it's only been a few weeks. For others, when we did this earlier, it's been a month or two. But get on Instagram. So you're going to see that's our bias. I think the bias is based in data, that Instagram is kind of the future, particularly around younger demographic, and that really it's a good opportunity to sort of get there and not just put all your eggs in the Facebook basket. Obviously, you could talk about Twitter and LinkedIn and others, but we're going to talk mostly about Instagram. Make sure you have a business account. We talked about that last time. You can easily convert your account to a business account, which allows you to do a lot of cool things in terms of how people can contact you through Instagram. But really, the most important thing is how you get insights or data or analytics about what's effective, how your posts are doing, how people are responding to them, things like that. So convert your Instagram to a business account. If you haven't already, have a goal in mind. Don't just get on social media because someone told you to, because you attended a webinar. Think about how it connects to your business goals, whatever that goal might be for this quarter, for the next year or whatever. Be committed. I think we talked about posting 2 or 3 times a week, and that's challenging. We're even noticing with Scout Collective, we've gotten some clients going and things happening in the webinars. We're not as committed as we should be. And I think it's something that it is a challenge, but if you have a plan, a schedule, in terms of a calendar, when you're not just doing things on the fly, and you automate, which we talked about last time with Facebook Creator, which is free, then you can get ahead of it, right? And you don't have to always be like, have that stress of what am I going to post or whatever. Don't be intimidated, which is kind of the theme of all of this, is hopefully we're explaining things in a very simple way, and then get help if you need it, right? Know that there's firms like ours, there's many others that you can reach out to, that if you need help, whether that's coaching or it's somebody to actually do it for you, that there's opportunity there as well. So today, a little bit more detail of the agenda. We're going to talk about the digital foundation again. We're going to talk about the best $500 you can spend in terms of logo design. We're going to talk about digital assets, design concepts, and then we added some stuff based on feedback from the previous webinars where there was lots of questions about just kind of basics, like what can you do on Instagram? How does it work? What are hashtags? So we're going to cover some very basic concepts there. Joel's going to do a little demo of Canva to sort of talk about how you can make your post more designish. And then we'll close with some holiday ideas around how do you use this holiday period, though, yeah, we don't have a ton of time, right? We're already into December, which is crazy, to, how do you kind of connect with the holidays on social media? So let's start just with the refresher of the digital foundation. So this was from last time. I firmly believe that every small business should have these 3 components, working, right? So you should have a website, you should be registered with Google My Business, and you should be on social media. And we'll talk about what each of these are briefly, right? Google My Business, of course, is where people find us as our first point of contact, whether they're on their phone and they're looking for a restaurant or an accountant or whatever. and or on their desktop if they're searching as well. It's kind of the mini website, right? And you have to claim it, and set it up correctly, things like that. There'll be links to other webinars that we did where we talk about how you set up Google My Business and some basics around that. But everybody should have that, right? It's the first point of contact for a lot of people, so the information should be accurate, right? You should have reviews there, things like that. Then you need a website. That's where all your social media content really should be directing people to the website where they're making a call for action. It doesn't have to be, right? If you have a brick and mortar store, maybe the call to action is come in and shop with us, right? Or, come try our restaurant special. But for a lot of folks, the social media kind of drives people to a place, and that place is the website, whether that's going to have blog content, it's going to have a more detailed explanation of your story and why you got into business. It's going to have, what do I offer, products, services, menus, things like that. But a website is really, really important. And then social media is really about creating awareness, which we talked about last time. It's how do I build relationships with my, prospects or customers? And it's much more immediate, right? You're not going to update your website every day. Like nobody does that. Well, maybe I'm sure people do that, but no small business does that, right? It's going to be something where you update your website maybe monthly. But social media is way more immediate. I was talking to a client and she said, I was not meeting my sales goal for the day. And I was really wanting to meet it, which is great. And she's like, so I pushed out on social media, hey, 2 for 1, right? If you come in and I think there was 2 hours till her store closed. If you come in the next 2 hours, 2 for 1 on this product, right? And she met her sales goal. You couldn't do that with the website. It wouldn't make sense. But social media allows us to be much more immediate, in the moment, much more seasonal, much more related to kind of events happening around us, which is why it's very important, but they all have to work together. And if you remember this kind of continuum I shared last time, not every business needs to focus equally on social media and a website. Yeah, some businesses are going to be much more website focused. I use a dentist example, right? I'm sure there are probably dentists who do a great job on social media, but for me, I don't necessarily want to see root canal pictures in my feed or whatever. And I'm sure you could put better pictures than that. But they might be more focused on a website where there's going to be more information about their authority and kind of why they're a great dentist and the services they offer and things like that. Versus, hey, I'm a local restaurant and I'm always wanting to push out specials and maybe I get a lot of traffic from my daily specials. Well, then social media is going to be a much bigger focus. So you have to find where you fit in the continuum. If you're not sure, then I would start in the middle, right? Make sure you have a basic website. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it has to work on mobile and be secure and all of that. And then, also do some social media 2 or 3 times a week. And kind of find that natural balance. I think for every business, you need to have Google My Business. So if you're like, well, I don't know how to claim it, or I haven't claimed it, or I don't know how to set it up. Again, we'll have links at the end of this presentation, which will get sent out, that have additional webinar content that we did with in conjunction with the ACA statewide that talks about how you actually manage or set up Google My Business. So check that out. And just remember, digital marketing is really just about driving awareness. And so with social media, what we're trying to do is increase our awareness, which allows us to then convert that to dollars. It's not about influencers. It's not about clicks and likes and, how it makes us feel or doesn't feel. Sometimes, if nobody likes your content, you feel kind of bad, but it's not about that really, right? It's about a consistent strategy to drive more and more awareness, which then drives business outcomes, right? And for most businesses, actually all businesses, it's revenue, right? Whether that's, selling cupcakes, or it's people in your restaurant, or it's people signing up for your services or products or buying online, whatever that is, it's really about that. And so we have to make sure that as we think about this, it's not just something we do, but it's something that we're actually connecting to that business outcome. So I promise that's the last of the review slides, but I just think it's useful to kind of set that context and before we get into the new content for today. So I'm convinced that the best $500 you can spend is on a logo. And so this is an example of our logo. And you can see that, in our logo, we actually, for $500, we're able to get 4 different logo treatments, right? So it's the same kind of core logo, but it's done in a badge format and in a vertical and horizontal format, right? And it's very, very multi-purpose. And I think what I see a lot is people either not pay for a logo and try to design it themselves, or do a free logo, or they'll work with someone who isn't digital focused, and the logo then isn't flexible for lots of digital and non-digital purposes, right? And a logo to me, as this webinar today is really about design and content, a logo is really the starting point for your design aesthetic, right? Obviously, it's your projection of your brand into the world, but it really, in terms of how it connects to social media and digital, it is really where your design aesthetic sort of starts. It's the coloring, it's the fonts, it's sort of the vibe that you're sending out, right? For lack of a better term. And so I think it's really important to invest in a good logo. Now, you might already have a logo and say, well, okay, I already have a logo, I don't want to change it, but maybe I want to make it more digital. I want to, give it different treatments, things like that. And we can do that as well, right? Or a good designer can do that as well. So it's not so much about throwing away, you're known as this logo in town and you have a big sign that you paid a lot for on your business, but it is about saying, well, does that really work for me in digital, right? Is it something that's blurry, or I don't have the right file formats to put in social media? Because if you don't, then you're already kind of starting with the disadvantage. So I think it's really important to think about your logo and how that works in a digital world. And so you can see, for example, on our website, of course, we have our logo. On our Facebook, we do have a Facebook, believe it or not, as much as we think we should focus on Instagram, we have our logo. On our Instagram, we have our logo, right? On our contracts, we have our logo. And now you start to getting into non-digital business cards. We have our logo. Actually, we just did with a local leather company up here in Sholo, or actually they're in Pine Top, really cool coasters that have our logo, leather coasters. A hat that has our logo. The shirt I'm wearing right now as well has our logo. And so when I say it's the best $500 that you can spend, I think that's what we're sort of talking about, is that, it's multi-purpose. It's not just digital. It obviously could be on menus, and it can be on letterhead, and PowerPoint presentations and things like that. And it's not a big investment when you think about how many places it can be used and how important it is in terms of projecting your brand. So my takeaway there is just think about your logo. Do you like it? Do you like it? Do you love it? That's number one, right? And number two is, does it work in both offline, so non-digital, physical, right? And in the digital context. And if it doesn't, either modify it or think about a redesign or rebrand, if that makes sense. So what to look for in a logo designer? We kind of learned the hard way working with a few different logo designers over time, and we have one we really like that we work with, that we can help connect you with, or you can work with us through it if you want. But number one is they work with small businesses, so make sure that this is not their first rodeo. Hey, I normally don't work with small businesses, or whatever. They have a process. So I think that's really important. Anybody you work with in digital should really have a process. What I mean by that is, first, you're going to tell me what colors you like, and different brands you like, and then I'm going to take that and come up with multiple kind of concepts, and then we're going to revise those concepts, and then so don't just have something that's like, I do logos. Well, what does that look like? Well, I just do logos. That's probably not ideal. And so I think it's important, for example, you have multiple concepts and revisions. They'll provide multiple orientations, like I showed in the beginning, right? You don't want just one orientation, because it doesn't always work in Instagram versus Facebook or on your website or whatever. And then I think the last one is super, super important, which is they're digital first, right? So they're not like a company that's all they've been doing is creating logos that go on signs in the physical world. Nothing wrong with that, of course. But if they're not really comfortable with different file formats and transparent backgrounds and things like that, then that's not going to be great for using that logo in the digital space, right? But once you have it, you can use it everywhere. So I think it's really a super worthwhile investment. As we talk about kind of content and design in this webinar, I think it's important to really realize that the most overlooked digital asset, and I just love this picture. This is such a cute kid. Is really you. He's pointing at you. He's pointing at us, right? And what I mean by that is we forget again that marketing and social media is really about sharing your unique story, right? I was on a call yesterday with a prospective client, and we were talking about their website redesign. And they were saying, the first thing out of their mouth was, well, we want to make sure we don't, upset the Google search algorithm, And I was like, okay, I get that. But when I looked at their website, and they actually agreed with this, it wasn't clear like what they were doing as a company. if you came to the website. It wasn't clear what their unique value proposition is. And by the way, they had a really unique value proposition. They just didn't project it to the website. It wasn't clear what the call to action was, what people should be doing on the website, right? But yet they've been programmed, I think we've been programmed, that what matters is some sort of algorithms or search engine optimization or all of these things. And those things do matter for sure, right? And we can help with that if you want, or there's lots of firms that can help with that. But we can't lose sight of real people come to sites or come to social media, right? Real people are looking for a real connection, an understanding of your story, what's unique about your business, what your value proposition is, what your passions are, right? You're reaching humans, not robots. And so I think anything we do in design and content should start with you understanding. And sometimes it's just going and like writing it down. Why did I get in this business? Why do I think I'm better than my competitors? And like, what is our unique value proposition and story? What do I want people to take away if they spent 5 minutes on our social media feed, right? What is the call to action I want people to do? And so I think that's super, super important, is that we don't forget that the most important kind of digital asset as you think about social media content and design is you. I don't mean like all pictures of you. Of course, I think pictures of you or your employees is super important, but I just mean your unique story, right? Make sure that what's coming through is reflective of you. You are your business. As a small business, especially up here in Show Low, meeting more and more small business owners, they don't even have multiple employees, right? They're just running the business themselves. And so the idea that the business is them is actually not just metaphorically true, it's actually true. And so let people get to know you. Social media is a great place to kind of be a bit more vulnerable, be a bit more authentic, and share a little bit about you. Now, there is a balance. We talked about this last time. I don't necessarily think you should be sharing, personal challenges, or things that might be, some might consider inappropriate or super strong political leanings either way, because you're a business and we want to still make sure that we're projecting, hey, everybody's welcome, because we want customers, we want their revenue. But I do think it's an opportunity to share your story, which I think is really, really important. So now let's kind of shift gears from more theoretical to very practical, right? So this was based on a lot of feedback over the last few webinars that we did. Let's talk about just Instagram basics. Some of us just live in a Facebook world. If you're of my generation, you're probably more of a Facebook generation than Joel, who's definitely of an Instagram generation. And so let's talk a little bit about Instagram basics and kind of what we can and can't do on Instagram as a business, or how it works, I guess, at a high level. So the first is there's really 3 types of content groups that you can create on Instagram. And it's important to sort of understand them. I'm going to talk about the first 2, but I'll actually kind of hit the third one as well. So there's posts, and we'll talk about what that means, stories, which we'll talk about, and then reels. And now reels is something we won't talk about, but just to give you the context, it's Instagram's kind of answer to TikTok, right? So it's sort of short, funny, music-y videos that they're sort of trying to promote because they've seen TikTok become so important. Do I think they're critical for businesses to do reels? No. Do I think if you're that kind of creative, fun, funky vibe person and you want to, that reflects your business, should you do it? Yeah, great, do it. But just so you know, right, these are the 3 types of content, and I would say start with posts, and we'll kind of talk about what that looks like. And really, this is very practical. If you want to know how do you start to add content to Instagram, it's that little plus button, then this will come up, and then you can click whatever post or story or reel you want to add. So what is a post, right? A post fills the feed, and the feed is basically, if you're on your Instagram app on your phone, it's when you hit the home button or when you come into Instagram, it's everybody's content, right? And so it's this part of, I just took this screenshot on my own phone. It's this part of the screen, and obviously it goes down, right? So then as you start to scroll, you're going to have tons and tons of different content. What can go in this as a post is images and short videos, right? Videos are limited to 2 minutes, 120 seconds. You can put multiple images per post. So if you've seen Instagrams where they have dots like this right here, that means that you can swipe left, and actually see multiple images, which can be a good technique because Instagram will, if you have multiple images, will sometimes put you back in people's feed because they know, hey, you have more images that you want people to see. But this is what a post does. So when you actually create a post, you can upload an image. Joel will show us later how you can upload designed content, and then it will be in people's feed. Now there's lots of algorithms about why it shows up and when it shows up and how often it shows up, but that's sort of the basics. And then every post really has these kind of three components. It has the content itself, which is the image, right? So in this case, it's this image of a delicious looking sandwich at a restaurant up here in Snowflake. It also has text, which I kind of cut off, which is the caption. I guess we could think of it that way. It has hashtags, which we'll talk about in a second. And then optionally, so you don't, not everyone has this, you can tag people, and we'll talk about that as well. So it's called account tagging. But that's the basics, right? The content is the images or video. The text is the captions, and then hashtags. Again, you don't have to have hashtags, but we'd recommend you do. We'll talk about it. Is the third component of every post. Not hard, not intimidating. If you can take a picture, if you can write text, and we'll talk about hashtags, you can do this. Now, Instagram stories show up here. And you're like, huh, that's weird. If you don't use Instagram, at first you're like, why do they have two places to look for content, right? And the reason really is because they design the stories to be short-lived. So you can post something there, and it can be static, it can be video, it can be a repost. We'll talk a little bit about that in our hands-on that we'll send out afterwards. But it only lives for 24 hours. So the idea with stories is something that is more very much in the moment. I mean, social media is already in the moment, but this would be very much in the moment, right? And it's going to disappear from forever. From everybody's feed, or everybody's story in 24 hours. So this is where a lot of people who are influencers will do. I'm sure we've seen them if we use Instagram, these long videos, and kind of click through all the frames, and forever and ever they're kind of talking and doing stuff. But we'll talk about in our hands-on, that we'll send out separately, how businesses can use these very simply. And the reason that I think it's cool to use is it's another place for your content to show up. Right? I mean, who doesn't want your content to show up in two places? Like, if I could buy one billboard or two billboards, I would want two, right? Because double my reach. And so that's the same idea with stories, is that you want it to show up somewhere else, and it will show up at the top there, as well as obviously you can have content that will stay in the feed. About the feed, I guess back to this, it's going to stay forever. So you can delete it, but I think you can, but it will not leave after 24 hours. Stories will leave after 24 hours. Now, you might say, well, man, I really worked on this great story and I want to keep it, and I want to have it highlighted so that it doesn't disappear because I did all this great work, or it's maybe pretty critical, like I'm going to keep posting it back or sending people back to it. You can highlight that story and it'll actually show up under your bio. So if somebody clicks on your little link or your little image, they'll see, oh, this person actually kept this story, this business kept this story, and maybe it's about, meet our employees, or, hey, grand opening, or something that you want to save. So it is possible to save it. Doesn't necessarily save it in the feed or in the story feed, but it does allow you to save it in your bio area, and people can go back and look at it. Now let's talk about account tagging. So that was one I said was optional, right? So it's content, caption, hashtags, which we'll get to, and then account tagging. And so account tagging just is a way of basically calling out. Well, there's two ways, right? You can do it in the image itself. So this is an example of a post that Joel did for this webinar, right? And so because he put ACA in there, logo, and he put Pioneer College in there, he actually tagged those accounts. So when you post it, you can actually click on the image, and then you can do a tag, which is basically like start typing at Northland Pioneer College, and it'll actually come up. Now you're like, well, why would I want to do that? Well, because the other person, that other account will actually get notified that you've tagged them, and they might repost your content, right? So it's a way of kind of networking between accounts. Now, obviously, if you're not a business, a lot of people just use this with their friends, like, personal, like, hey, this picture has these 3 people in it, I'm going to tag them, and then they'll know that I posted this picture, and they'll be able to find them themselves and know that I did that. But for businesses, it's really a way of kind of networking between businesses and saying, hey, I posted something about you, or I'm going to talk about small businesses in my area. I'm going to tag a bunch of our small businesses so that they can see my post as well, and maybe they'll repost it on their Instagram. So it's a way of kind of broadening your network reach by using other people's accounts as well. Now, some people, like when we did a giveaway, you'll actually ask your customers to tag their friends, right? And so we did a giveaway this summer. Actually, we did 12 weeks of giveaways, $50 gift cards every week. And to win, you had to tag 2 of your friends in the comments, right? And you're like, well, why would you want them to do that? Well, then those 2 friends now see this post, like, oh, you got tagged in this post from Scout Collective. Well, who the heck's Scout Collective? I'm going to look at the post. Oh, it's a giveaway. And so you kind of have this multiplier effect of now 2 new people who don't follow you, probably don't follow you, now see your content, and maybe they will follow you, right? So it's a way of actually building followers as well. If you're doing something like a giveaway or promotion, or like, hey, to get access to our 10% off holiday, special, tag to your friends, this will allow you to get a larger reach into additional followers, which is really good. Another kind of pro tip, I guess, for Instagram, or basic, is, and this is something that at first I was like, really? They don't do this? But Instagram doesn't do any sort of linking. So you'll see people post on Instagram and they'll have like a URL, a link, right? Like, go to my site. It doesn't work. You can't click on it. The only way, and I think this is the history of Instagram, is they really wanted to be visually driven, right? They didn't want to be a link, kind of spammy link driven, which some would say Facebook is, but I had to get my dig in on Facebook, right? But so they ban links in their platform, right? There's some exceptions. If you have 10,000 followers, there's ways to get links, but generally for all of us, there's no way to get a link. So if we post something like, hey, check out my blog post, right, which Joel does all the time in our feed, he can't put in that post, check out this link, right? I mean, he could put a link in there, but you'd have to have somebody typing in, which who wants to do that? Like www.scoutcollective.digital/blog/ whatever, right? So what you'll see people say is link in bio, right? And if you see that, what that means is that they want you to click on, in this case, Scout Collective's bio, where we have some information, right, about who we are. And then you're allowed 1 link here by default, right? Now that's annoying, because most people, the right thing to do would be put your website there, right? If you only have 1 link, that would be the link. But that doesn't always work if you're trying to drive people to certain content, blog posts, webinars, right? Whatever. And so, there's all these kind of Linktree companies that have come out. This one is actually called Linktree, but they're very similar, or linking companies, which this one is free. So, and we use it, highly recommend it. I always want to bring you guys free stuff, where you can actually, get a link that then allows you to build out multiple links. And so we can move these around, we can change them. So when we say, hey, link in bio, we want someone to come here, click here, and then say, oh, that blog post, if I click here, I'm going to actually go to that blog. If I click here, I'm going to go register for the social media, webinar or whatever, right? So this is something that's really important, is if you, first of all, make sure there's some link here, like your website. So I see some people who don't even have anything there, because that's how people will find you from Instagram. And then if you do have multiple content that multiple areas of content you want to share, which most of us do, like, hey, go directly to my menu, or go directly to my services, or a blog, or whatever, consider something like Linktree, which is free. And there's other ones that look more kind of sexy and whatever, but they cost money. And so we want to bring you, again, the kind of free stuff. So check that out. But key thing to remember is, don't try to throw links into your text. They can be there. It's not like you'll get banned or anything, but they just won't work. They're just not clickable. Okay, let's talk a little bit about design and content. So basic design tips, I think on Instagram in particular, but you can say this on Facebook too, is I think as a business, there should be a balance between what I'm calling natural content and design content. Let me just flip ahead here and then I'll go back. So this is an example of design content. Very nice, Joel, very nice work. This was an Instagram post talking about a blog post that we did, why Facebook shouldn't be your website. Check it out, it's a great blog post. I highly believe that. And so, Joel designed this, right? And he'll actually show you guys how to do that for free with Canva in a second. Versus this is the natural, image, right? A picture. This is our dog. Her name's Roxy. And people love animals, as we talked about last time. And so I think you should find a balance, right? Now, I think, we tend, because we're digital marketing, to be a little bit more design than natural, right? Because we don't have like a restaurant or, employees in the same way, that are all in an office or, whatever, right? We're not, running a lodge or something where we could take cool outdoor pictures all the time. So we do put, outdoors pictures, animal picture, people pictures, videos, but we tend to be more on the design side. But I think depending on your business, you just need to find that right balance, right? Some design content and some natural content. You can see that in our feed, right? Design, 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 natural, 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 right? So I think you need to find a balance of that. And if you're like, I have no idea how to do the design content, Joel's coming up, so he'll show you. Spelling and grammar matter. And this another one, I'll use Joel and I'll roast him directly, is he just posted this not that long ago. And if you read closely, he forgot a word. So learn how to use third-party design tools such as Canva as well, more intermediate Instagram and Facebook tips and tools, right? So make sure you just proofread your stuff. You can go back and edit it, so it's certainly not the end of the world, but make sure you actually are using, English and your spelling correctly, because it does reflect on your business, right? Keep it concise. This is one I feel like people violate a lot. If you're going to post on Instagram, again, remember, it's content, text, hashtags. The text should really be a couple sentences, right? I see people write these very long, almost blog-like things, and it's like, put that in a story, make a video of yourself. People don't want to read, tons and tons of text, right? Make a blog and send people to your website if they do want to read it, but try to keep it concise, right? Find an authentic voice and stick to it. So this is going back to the biggest digital asset is your story, your business, what got you into business in the first place. And then be consistent with your aesthetic. I mean, Instagram is kind of more designy, right? And creative. And so, don't have blurry images, don't have, kind of one colors and then all of a sudden totally different colors that are clashing. I mean, try to be consistent. I don't think that's a huge deal, but something that you will see people talk about in terms of keeping your feed looking nice. Some free other places to get content. If you're like, man, I can go take pictures and stuff, but I really want some other content. I want some, marketing content that is already been done for me, right? Some images. So let's say you were looking up, something about, a product that, or in our case, like when we post something about digital marketing, we don't have a bunch of digital marketing pictures laying around. So we'll go look and search. And these two sites, again, free, and you can use them copyright free in your Instagram posts. So Unsplash and Pixabay are great resources for getting content. Now, I think the more you can create natural content that's your own content, it's better, right? So I wouldn't go in and find a dog picture here and say, oh, here's my dog or whatever, use your actual dog. But there are times that you need high quality, cool images that you're not going to be able to get yourself, right? And so there's no issue at all with using services like this. And again, they're free. And then the last thing about design, and I'm so convinced about this, is the greatest design asset we have, one of the greatest, is our cameras on our phones. I mean, if you think about how camera phone technology has evolved, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's better than most, SLR kind of cameras now. Now, does that mean you should go out and buy the latest iPhone, which this is? Maybe. I mean, it might be a worthwhile investment, right? The kind of pictures you can take on that of your employees, of your business, of the nature around you, of the things you want to promote, your food, right? Whatever. Pretty awesome. And so you can do a lot without bringing in a photographer, though I think that can be useful at times too, with just your phone. And so get familiar with your phone, get comfortable with the different settings. We think on the iPhone, the portrait setting is great where it blurs the background, but it might be worthwhile to invest in an upgrade on your phone. Again, I don't get any money from Apple. But because of the power of the camera and the ability for it to really take some awesome pictures. Hashtags. We're covering a lot of ground quickly, so hopefully that's working for everybody. What are hashtags? So we got that question a few times on the last few posts, like what the heck are hashtags, right? And really hashtags are a way of grouping similar posts or categories. They are used as part of the Instagram algorithm. People can follow hashtags directly. So let's say, for example, you love the White Mountains, right? In Arizona. there's probably a hashtag that's hashtag White Mountains that as an Instagram user, you could actually follow that hashtag. And then anything posted in that and using that hashtag will show up in your feed, right? But hashtags generally are just a way of widening our reach if they're used correctly in social media. I took this from a blog on Hootsuite. I'm not going to go through this, but there's all sorts of kind of categories of hashtags. So products and services like, hey, I have a dive bar. That's the example they give, right? Hashtag dive bar. Or maybe there's something that's, an industry hashtag, a gardeners of Instagram or whatever. Seasonal hashtags. That's a big one, right? So National Ice Cream Day, obviously Christmas, Thanksgiving, veterans, etc. I think location hashtags are pretty important for small communities. And we use those a lot. And I'll talk about that. Daily hashtags, acronym emoji hashtags. But the idea is that there's a lot of hashtags, and I would say start with ones, start small and start with ones that you feel like make sense in your market. The best way to understand that, to be honest, is sort of peek over at your competition. What are they doing? What hashtags are they using? Even if it's not in your region, but you're, let's say, in a particular market or business, and you want to look at another, region for that kind of business. Well, how are they reaching people with their hashtags? So I think that's a good tip. What not to do, I'll tell you what I see is a lot of people don't know what the heck they're doing with hashtags, is use hashtags as text, like in a fun way, like hashtag come check out our restaurant. Like I think we think because in popular culture that has been used a little bit, like, hashtag I'm not, no second date for you. That somehow is what hashtags are, is like a funny way of kind of, saying stuff. It's not, right? Hashtags like that, you can put them in, but they're totally pointless and they don't really do anything in terms of adding to your reach, right? The other one is people sometimes will put very brand specific hashtags, which if you're Nike, obviously that works, right? Everybody knows who Nike is. Nobody knows who Scout Digital is, right? So if I hashtag all of our posts with Scout Digital, that means no one's going to see them. No one's following Scout Digital. No one's like, that's not trending, right? And so you can own that hashtag in the sense that if anyone ever did look at Scout Digital, you'd be the only stuff that our stuff would be the only stuff that came up. But it's not necessarily the best way to broaden your reach unless you have a very well or nationally known brand, right? The other thing I see people not doing is don't research hashtags, and I'll show you how to do that. Overwhelm your posts with hashtags, like way too many hashtags. 1 to 3 is average from what I've heard in the research. 10 should be about your max. The other thing that just is more of a personal annoyance is putting them against your text. So I don't like hashtags that actually kind of distract from the copy or the content that you're writing. But this is an example of why researching hashtags is so important, right? And you can actually do that in Instagram. This is a desktop snapshot of Instagram. You can do it on your phone too. Is let's say I wanted to, like up here, understand, should I be using, Pinetop Lakeside, Arizona, or Pinetop Lakeside, Arizona fully spelled out, right? Well, what Instagram tells me immediately when I type those in is this one has a lot more posts. That means 19,000 people have posted recently with Pinetop Lakeside. So if I use that, now, first of all, I should go check that out because maybe there's another Pinetop Lakeside in Massachusetts or something, and maybe I don't want that. But I should go check out that hashtag and see, is this all Pinetop Lakeside, Arizona? Is this going to be a good place? But the volume of posts makes it a pretty good place, right? If I chose, because I didn't do my research, Pinetop Lakeside, Arizona, which is fully spelled out, and I put that in my post, and I'm thinking, man, I went to this webinar and this guy Ben said use location specific hashtags, particularly in small communities. And I used Pinetop Lakeside, Arizona, but it doesn't seem like it did anything. Well, it didn't do anything because no one's posting to that hashtag. And so you're basically kind of, screaming into the void, right? So it's something super simple that you can do. Now, there's lots of tools you can pay for that will do very complex hashtag research for you and things like that. We're always trying to bring you guys free stuff. This is free. Just go on Instagram and kind of start typing in hashtags. Again, if you want a starting point, peek over to your competitors or other businesses and see what they're doing. But use hashtags that are actually getting traction so that you're not just kind of making them up as you go or guessing, but you're actually doing some data, research and data. And by the way, in the Insight Analytics, you can also see if people are finding you via hashtags as well, which is interesting after you post. And then this is just again, this personal pet peeve. I don't like when hashtags are right up against the text. And so in Facebook Creator, you can actually create that text. But if you're just posting manually on your phone, it's not always clear, how do I actually create that separation? On the iPhone, what you do is you have to go into the 1, 2, 3 keyboard. And then once you are there, it'll bring up this 1, 2, 3 keyboard, and then you'll have a return button. And that return button will actually allow you to create a separation. So just a kind of a real quick tip. When we first got Instagram, I was like, man, this is so annoying. I want to be able to create separations, not even my personal account. And that's how you do it. More information that you guys can check out later about Instagram hashtags. Twitter also very important to use hashtags. Facebook's interesting. I would highly recommend reading this article. Again, we'll send the content out afterwards, because Facebook doesn't really use hashtags in the same way. They rolled hashtags out, I think, in 2016, but they really haven't made a big effort to use hashtags. And so don't think that, how it works on Instagram or Twitter is actually how it works on Facebook. It doesn't. And that's a really good article that kind of gives that context. All right. So Joel, now over to you. And I think this is just really cool because Canva, when we found Canva, and it's pretty widely known, I was just so impressed with what you could get for free with this tool to really help small businesses kind of create designed content. And if you want to pay for it, it's only like $13 a month, and it unlocks some more features and more templates and things that Joel will talk about. But really, really cool. And I wanted Joel to spend 5 or 10 minutes to talk about, what we can do with Canva. So I'll stop sharing, Joel, and I'll turn it over to you to share.
All right, thank you. So yeah, so basically this is what your Canva page is going to look like when you go on their site. So I like to start up here in the top right with the create a design. So once you click that, there'll be a drop down with just a ton of different pre-made templates in there. So you can even search. So if you're looking for something Instagram specific, just go ahead and search that, and there'll be a bunch there, as well as Facebook too. So the one that we use the majority of the time is just going to be the standard Instagram post that pops up at the suggested, just because that's what we use. So we'll go ahead and click that. And you can see here, it'll show up kind of right here is going to be your slate where the content will populate. And then on the left is going to be kind of where you can add things and edit that way. So from here, where I like to start is just going to be at the templates. So again, there's, even with the free version, there's a ton of different templates in categories. So, you can go, if you're looking for an Instagram ad, you can go through all those. So that's where I like to start. We'll just go ahead and use this one as a guide. So first, Ben had talked about the importance of a logo. So we'll go ahead and start with that. So there's also a cool feature where you can basically upload pictures so you can use them in the post itself from your computer. So we have a bunch already preloaded. So let's see, we'll just go ahead and find our logo here. We'll use this guy. So just go ahead and click that, and it'll show up right on the front. You can drag and drop to resize that. So we'll bring this guy up to the corner for now. And so, yeah, so that's kind of how you get the logo in there. From there, like Ben had talked about earlier, the importance of the logo and, the aesthetic that comes with that. Sometimes you're going to want to use the colors that your logo is in the post itself, kind of to get it to match and look nice that way. So to do that, there's also another really cool feature that you can do. So basically, to change any, edit any of the elements within the post itself, just go ahead and click it. Since this is just a color block, that'll just come up here as a color, so we can change it from there. You can see from here, you can change it to really any color that you would like. But what's even cooler is from here, any pictures or photos that are in the post itself over here, those colors will show up to choose from here. So you can see all the colors that show up in this guy. You can choose from, just so you can get the same color. You're not trying to match it yourself just with this one up here. So we'll go ahead and use that blue color here to match. It has that same blue as the logo. So we'll go ahead and change this one too, just to get that the same. And then, since we have a few different logos with some different colors, if we want to get the orange in there, we'll kind of do the same thing. I'll go ahead and delete this guy, and then add in this one, just so we can, make that green, that big green block, we can make that orange as well. So basically the same thing. Go ahead and click whatever you're looking to change, and come down here and see that had changed from just that blue to now it'll let you choose from the orange color as well. So we'll go ahead and just do that, just to get that blue and the orange that that we like to use sometimes in there. And as you can see, that doesn't show up on the top. So we'll get rid of that guy, and then one more we can put this one that'll kind of match the text, the white text that was in the post already. So that's kind of just an overview of the logo and how you're able to change the colors based on any specific or aesthetic that you're looking for. Next, we'll go over just how to edit text. Just go ahead and click that one, similar to the colors that we changed as well. That the text box will kind of show up. Just backspace to delete that guy, and then we'll just type and say it's a new blog that we're making a post about. And then from there, you can change font size, color. There's effects. You can do a shadowing effect and adjust it that way. Well, let's just throw on a different font there. There's even with the free version, there's a ton of fonts you can use, and then even more so with the paid version. So we'll just go ahead and click that first one on there, and that one changed over here. Similar to the logo, drag, you can resize the font that way just by, taking the corners and moving it that way. And then, just another, if we want to get rid of this one, because that's not, relevant to the post, we'll go ahead and delete that one. And then lastly, what we can do is, again, because this picture, isn't related, we won't want that one on the post when we go ahead and post that. We'll go ahead and do uploads again. So if there's any specific pictures that you found from Unsplash or those places that Ben was talking about earlier, you're able to download those there and then upload them through Canva here. So we'll just go ahead and use this guy for an example. And one really cool thing is basically so you can see right there, I just hovered over that picture, and it kind of just dragged and dropped it in there and kind of resized it accordingly. So yeah, even right there, just a few minutes, we kind of have, it won't be a final version here with what we have, but kind of just a general idea of how you can get colors, change text, add photos, and add a logo, to get a base idea of how you can go ahead and do that. And then lastly, once you're done, once you feel good with it, there's up in the top right is how you're going to go ahead and kind of export that. And so you're able to kind of do it'll download on your computer, so you can email it to yourself, post it through Facebook Creator from your computer. So this is once you click that download, it'll give you some options. We just keep it on that PNG that's suggested there, and keep those unclicked. It depends on what it is. For this one, we'll keep those unclicked, and then just go ahead and download it. And then that'll kind of load up and get downloaded. And then I'll, let you know that it is downloaded. And then it shows up right here on my computer as basically a separate file that, from there you can kind of do whatever you want. And so again, yeah, that's just kind of a quick overview of some general tips and tricks on how to, get started with Canva and how to get that your design exported and posted from here.
Awesome. Thanks, Joel. I think the cool thing about Canva is it's really about helping you be a graphic designer without being a graphic designer, right? So all the things Joel said, drag and drop, all in a web interface, all exportable. And by the way, as he said, tons of Facebook templates, PowerPoint templates, postcard templates, even. Just awesome power for a small business. It's kind of what I mean when I said, like, at another webinar, small businesses have no reason to not cross that digital divide, right? We can act bigger than we are because of tools like Canva. And we have no affiliation with Canva, so this is not we're not promoting them in any particular way, but it's something that I think is very, very cool. And again, can be used free. For a while, we just used it for free because, we could do what we wanted. And then we realized, we want some more templates, or we want some more features, or whatever. Okay. So last but not least, as promised, a little comments about the holidays. This is actually a tree we put up in Joel's apartment this Thanksgiving, a very little baby tree. But how do you use the holidays, right? I think again, holidays are still, holidays are connecting back to that authenticity in digital marketing. People like to know what your traditions are, right? They love holiday images, trees, lights, etc. They want to know what product, services, or menu things you're doing special for the holidays. Lots of giveaways or short-lived promotions, right? So I think holidays are a perfect time to play around with 10% off. We're going to do a giveaway of a gift card or a product or something to try to get more followers, right? People are looking for those sorts of things during the holidays. Now, the cool thing about Instagram or social media in general with those sorts of things is you can limit your risk, right? You can make them short-lived. You're not going to get 1,000 people probably using a discount code, but you can kind of experiment. And that's another really cool thing about social media in general. Share your traditions and the joy that you have around the holidays, whatever those are, whatever those kind of quirky, unique family traditions or business traditions. And then this one I think is really important. It's how do you support other businesses? So for example, up here, the SBDC is doing a great shop local during the holidays. It's an extension of the campaign that was done over the summer. So, repost that content, and we'll talk about it in our hands-on that we'll send out afterwards, how you repost other people's content on Instagram. But, use that kind of group energy around small businesses in your community and kind of get together and share each other's stuff or tag each other in posts or, hey, check out this or whatever, right? So that you're kind of creating an energy that's bigger than just your business. It's one that's really about the entire region or the entire small business community. Last slide, and I think Joel and I did most of the questions, handled them in text. But key takeaways: make sure your digital foundation is strong, get a compelling and versatile logo, find your unique story. Don't forget the biggest digital asset is you, right? And what you're doing in your business, why you started, your story. Use a mix of design and raw content depending on, or natural, actually, I think that's a better term than raw, but natural content. Use hashtags correctly. Explore these free tools like Canva and let your followers into your holiday traditions. We'll be following up with the recording of this session, a link to a separate hands-on video about Instagram stories. Somebody asked a great question: how do I repost content? And Instagram makes it a little hard to do. You have to do it in stories or through a third-party tool. There's some blogs that you can follow us on our blog. You can reach out to us for help if you need it. We do have a few minutes for any questions or things that are coming in. If you guys want to put those in the Q&A or chat box, I think Joel did a great job hitting most of those while I was babbling. But if there's anything else that we can answer, we certainly can stay a few more minutes if that makes sense for folks. Just trying to think if there's anything I wanted to add to. So there were some good questions about logos. You can reach out to us. We can connect you with who we'd recommend. Reposting. Oh, this was an interesting one. So Danielle asked a question: is there a benefit of putting hashtags in the comment section versus in the caption? There's a whole holy war debate about that. I think the recent data is it doesn't really matter. The reason that people did that is they thought that I think it was actually the case that the Instagram algorithm kind of saw that as the first comment, even if you made it, and that they would boost that post because they're like, oh, it's getting engagement, right? So that was always the recommendation: is put hashtags in the comments. I think the latest stuff I've read is that's not really the latest, not really something that's being used now. I don't think it matters that much. So it's kind of personal preference. If you want to do it, if you want to do it that way, you certainly can do it that way. How do I follow hashtag? So let's see if I can do it on Instagram on the desktop. Someone also said is not great, and that's exactly right. So I don't usually use Instagram on a hashtag, but on the desktop. But let's say if I was wanting to follow Pinetop or hashtag Pinetop Lakeside, I would search on it and I would click follow. So you should be able to do that on your phone as well, but that's how you would follow that hashtag, what that means then is if anybody posts, and that's not always the case because Instagram has its own algorithms, right? But if people post using that hashtag, you'll show up there. By the way, just an example of how you can own a hashtag, though I don't think it was necessarily great, but like we had 12 weeks of summer of local, for our promotion this summer. And you can see every one of these are our posts. We just did that because we were hoping that would catch on with local businesses. It actually didn't, but it shows you the example of if you have a very specific hashtag, you'll end up with just your content there, which unless someone actually follows it, which, hey, we're following our own hashtag, which is great. It's not necessarily going to be super useful. Any other questions? Follow up. I think I answered that one live. Some more chat questions. Great presentation. Yep. Link to Facebook Creator. Yeah, definitely. When we send out the presentation, we will send out some other materials. And one of those is a thing Joel and I did around Facebook Creator and how to use it. And so I would highly recommend that folks check that out. I mean, if you're like chomping at the bit and don't want to wait for that presentation to come out, you can do Scout Collective on YouTube. And we actually have posted a lot of our content there. So you can watch old webinars that we've done by clicking on, I'm not going to start listening to myself, am I? Hopefully not. By clicking on our little logo, and you'll see content that we've created, like hands-on demo of Facebook Creator. And so it lives in 2 places. So we actually have it also on a Zoom recording. A ton of people watched it there, but I moved it here just in case people wanted to find it there. So this is a good kind of tutorial on how to use Facebook Creator to schedule and post without having to use the Instagram app. So, all right, hopefully that was useful. And we enjoyed being with you guys again, and good luck with the holiday season, and go small businesses and small communities.
Thank you very much, Ben and Joel. That was really actually very informative. I teach social media marketing, and I learned a few things. So some tips even about Canva, which I use a lot, and ways to get the color easily without having to figure out the hex color code.
Yeah, actually.
That was a really good tip, time saver tip. So thank you so much. And this is, we don't have Instagram, and the reason we haven't had Instagram is you have to use your phone. And whose phone are we going to use, at the SBDC, right? The interns, I mean, especially all working remotely. So the Facebook Creator is a great tip for us, so that we can set up an Instagram page. So thank you so much. This was really wonderful. And Jamie, we'd just like you to talk a little bit about the ACA SBDC partnership, the relationship there, and just let people know a little bit more about that.
Sure, very good. Thanks again, Ben and Joel. You guys did a great job. I learned a lot myself, so nice work. In partnering up with that, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go to some of the partnering aspects of the SBDC. We at the Arizona Commerce Authority have what's called the Arizona Small Business Boot Camp and Resource Collective. And there's seminars that go on for small business, giving guidance for those that were affected by COVID and their businesses being impacted severely by that. So we use you guys as an example, the SBDCs and Arizona Commerce Authority, as subject matter experts to get the word out to those individuals on how to market their businesses and boost strategies. So that's one of the great things what we do in partnership with the SBDCs. They've been a great resource to us. They're a great resource when it comes to counseling small business and helping them find their way. The boot camps that we've done so far, we've had 33 weeks with over 100 sessions. Today marked 101 sessions of boot camps with a total of 7,700, well, more than that now as of today. So we definitely love partnering with the SBDCs and you guys as subject matter experts as well. We have resources for small business, obviously the business checklist for those looking to start, expand their business, the Small Business Development Center network throughout the state, great partners to deal with. And they are very good at all the application nuances through the SBA and all the idle programs, PPP programs, and everything to help those individuals navigate that. Not an easy process. SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives, another great organization that helps with free counseling for businesses, and then of course, the SBA. So that gives you an idea of kind of the SBA's or the ACA's role in helping small business, especially through the Small Business Boot Camp and Resource Collective. It's been a very successful program, and as I say, our partnership with the SBDCs helped shape that. So that's it's a great place to be in right now with assistance for small business.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate that. And again, Ben and Joel, this has been really great. We look forward to the third one that you're going to do in the series, and we'll probably want to do some more with you in the coming year, in 2021 as well. So
as will the ACA, you guys. So be ready.
yeah. Right. So I don't, are there any more questions to answer in the chat or the Q&A? If not, then I think we're good to go for today.
Yep, I think we're good.
Okay, super. Well, thank you so much. This has been just a wonderful presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
We'll be reaching out. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Bye. You too.